Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Talk. I'm Devishi Patel and I'm joined by the two incredible women leaders in digital world, Madhavi Isanaka and Ekta Ghosh. Today we will discuss how technology is changing our lives. From the way we work, to the way we communicate, to the way we consume information, technology is rapidly changing the game. Today, we'll also explore the latest technology and innovation in the technology space and discuss the future of technology in the business. Let me begin with you, Madhvi. What do you think we are heading to?
Well, there are a glut of technologies out there, but depending on the industry, obviously, in 90s when it all started accelerating, um, any businesses that are at the center is the consumer. Kind of actually took a rapid pace of innovation. So how we bought things like in 90s is very different than how we bought things, whether it is your airline tickets or shopping or makeup or your vegetables for the kitchen. Right? Then the next level of actually companies that support these consumer-oriented companies, got it, tech. And then the infrastructure space is fence rings those. So this is a great decade for us to be in the infrastructure company, kind of building the nation and bringing these technologies together. So fascinating use cases. Here I'm supporting the renewables business and also our New Industries Limited, where we are making solar manufacturing panels, vertically integrated, and wind turbines. So I can certainly talk about use cases. So why don't we kind of go around and see actually what are you excited about, Ekta?
Thank you, Madhvi. Good to be here, conversation with both of you. I'm looking after the digital airports. So my key thing is, like you said, how 90s, consumer behavior has changed. What comes with it is also that the consumer in today's time is so digital savvy that they're more impatient for more. They want more every day, right? So for airports, they have to continuously innovate, transform the way they are not just treating passengers, how they are optimizing operations, how they are also at the same time have a lens on sustainability. So all that coming together, digital becomes very central to what we do. And therefore, all the technology that we start to use and deploy starts to make a difference in everybody's life. So it's no more something that was an enabler yesterday. Today, it is more like central to anybody's business. Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I agree with Madhvi. The customer is definitely taking the center stage. So I think I am representing the real estate here. But if you look at the real estate, we have three very distinct, verticals under it. One, the whole build side of it, as in buying the land, building the residential or commercial properties. On the other hand, we have the entire selling lobby, and then we have the customers who are on the buy side of it. So interestingly, we see that consumer centricity in everything that we buy, except for the home. Because when it comes to home buying, earlier the decisions were driven by your instinct, your family values, your budgets, and other things. Today, if you look at it, suddenly the survey is saying that the interest of the consumer is increased based on the data that they are referring to. 25% the decision is taken based on the data that they see before even coming to the sample.
You are so spot on, actually, Devashri, because we joke around that Google can tell me much better than myself on what I'm going to buy next. So that is so amazing, actually.
And I read somewhere, just on the same thought process, they used to say data is the new oil.
Yeah.
Now they say data is the new soil. Because that's where everything, germinates and starts to take over. Because you're talking about decision making, but talk about real-time situational awareness in every scenario. So it's slowly becoming so ingrained to everything as we do. I mean, that was interesting data fact that you put in, but as we go forward, it now starts to look at how more we can do with data, what all we can do, and that's central to some of the business decisions. How about you?
So actually, I came from industrial company where they were making engines for 70 different market applications, from mining applications to oil and gas to on-highway trucking. So where we saw this headed was, and it's the same thing here in green, I'll talk about it. First, we started changing actually how we operate within our business. Then we kind of forayed into actually how we engage with our customers. Then we kind of like married about how can we make our products better. Right? So, and then combining the internal processes extending towards the customer and product enhancements, it's actually driving new business models and also ability to offer products and services we didn't before. In Adani Green Energy, where we stand up actually solar and wind portfolio and generate power out of it, we are envisioning actually we make very few decisions, and then we actually kind of like work the entire life cycle of that thing for next 25 years to manage to those decisions. So where do we really put up our plants, like the solar and wind plants that generate power? So now they really need to know actually what land to buy, but it's based on where will I get the sun radiation and wind actually the best. So now we are flipping it on its head, saying, hey, where do we have right solar wind resources so that we can look for the land there? And hey, how do we really think about, as we are going round the clock energy availability needs, what is the right mix of solar and wind? And we're also combining that with some product enhancements around when you combine and put a hybrid plant, solar and wind together. How do we optimize the power generation at the lowest denominator, which is a panel level? So if we look at all these things, what we can, the IRR we can get out of these investments, and how accurate can we be towards it, like, right? Sometimes if you're not getting the money, making money out of it, it's better to put money in our banks.
Yeah.
So how closely we can be to the IRRs is an aspect we're working on. So that kind of changes the game. So from a technology perspective, we can obviously have a tech speak around anything you can think about. We put together, somebody asked me a question, so I had the team put together a list of all the real technologies that are in flight in use or we are experimenting with. So whether you name like AI VR, AR VR, or AI ML, or you kind of like simple things, your robotic process automation, or we're doing POCs for, hey, at the end of 25 years later, we need to know how to dispose of our panels properly, the blockchain. So we can, and then there are applications where we are, if you are putting up 10 plus gigawatts, it's over 50,000 acres. So how can we really leverage the 5G internally for communication purposes in the SCADA network? So there are interesting applications that are happening of the new technologies, so that we are at the cusp of the green revolution, which is adding to sustainability, and all these new technologies together to raise the bar for this industry. So I'm curious about, actually, in your space, what are some of the things that you're doing?
So interestingly, in reality, there is a new term coined, we call it prop tech. So there is dedicated word to it, like all the cutting edge technologies under the property umbrella, So it covers everything right from blockchain to AI ML to AR VR, IoTs and whatnot. But practically, if you look at the real estate as an industry, when it comes to digital adoption, I think this industry is slightly, delayed. And it is across the world. I mean, it's not just India. India especially a little more because, interestingly, no matter how fancy tools we bring in, we make the home automated. The Indian buyer feels comfortable and secure only when he locks the door with a physical key and has the key in his pocket. Okay, if you put digital locks there, they are still not comfortable with it. So I think it's not the technology that we need to crack here. It's more about the, our consumers or our customers' mentality that probably we need to read more. So a lot of technology, in fact, we have been exploring in our space as well. So But when it comes to actual implementation, we are like still struggling to understand whether it is really creating that impact. And I'll share some experiences. Recently, we visited some of the experience centers, okay, across the country. And there are some amazing technology that people have implemented, and they're still trying to implement some more. When you walk into any sales gallery, for example, you see a beautiful experience center and you see some cutting edge technology, and you really get that feel good factor. Okay. But once the consumer is out, and if you actually interview the people who are actually managing this setup or the actual sellers, if you ask them how much did this technology implementation actually resulted in increasing your conversions, I think that's where we still to do, a lot, because it's not, we are doing a lot of fabulous things in real estate space, but that's not really getting encashed into conversions or, the impact that we are expecting. So it's still slow there. But yeah, I mean, having said that, technology is the thing for future. So nobody can really sit and wait for it. You have to give it, your 200%. So we keep trying. So let's see where it goes. But how about airports? I mean,
Right. In fact, what I just found in this conversation is the common denominator we have. We spoke about data. We talk about machine learning. We talk about blockchain. We talked about AI/ML. We talk about the same set of tech, but the deployment and its use cases start to differ in each industry. In fact, very interestingly, what we're doing in aviation tech now, there are the aviation tech, Western class solutions that are coming in, who would take in biometric, we're looking at supply chain with blockchain, all those happen. But interestingly, we also need to start looking at adjacencies as to how we can leverage what is happening in real estate, what is happening in energy. So what we are now looking at is borrowing from what you're doing in, say, real estate. For example, how we can look at the smart city concepts also come to airports, how we can do better wastewater management, how we can have smart energy grids so that we can manage the airport facility land side, learning from the experiences of what you are doing in your area. So that's where it all starts to come together and makes it a very unique place for airports. We're able to then take the technology just as a bedrock and build use cases which are never there before. So that's the interesting part.
That's excellent idea.
Fascinating, actually. There is something called a Kano Model. What was a delighter a couple of years ago is kind of like a must-have. Some of these things in the tech world, we as leaders, along with our CEOs and the rest of the C-suite, are trying to chase what is the exact value that it is going to deliver. But I'll tell you, actually, an interesting analogy. Apparently, in late 1800s, when electricity was invented and being adopted across, companies in the West had actually chief electricity officer because they couldn't afford it to be everywhere. So they were making decisions about where to use, where not to use. So now it is ubiquitous. You cannot imagine a home in a real estate or airport, any corner of the airport not having electricity. So all these technologies like that are going to embed in day-to-day of like what we do, how we do, and what we sell.
I have one more thing to say. I'm so happy to be in this conversation with two women leaders. I see more and more women come in tech, and that starts to resonate a lot with what we're trying to do with tech. When we talk digital, what is digital in the end? It is in the end understanding the consumer better, the end user better. And at the end of it, at the heart of it is empathy, right? Who else but women who can excel at it? So happy to see that so many women are taking up more senior roles now, because I believe it really add that missing element of heart to digital that I wouldn't say men don't have, but probably add a little more dash to it emotionally. So we start to identify with tech as what is adoptable. Will it work? Not just because it is good buzzwords, but also because it is really applicable and makes our life better. What do you think?
A very important point you brought. I mean, I wouldn't say there are many women in tech. In fact, I think there needs to be more women in tech. And as you rightly said, that diversity is very important, because then you have different kind of diverse kind of opinions coming together, ideas coming together, and then definitely the results would be better. I can speak for reality. The numbers are so shocking. I'm associated with one club which, specifically works for women in real estate sector. The very first time when I interacted with some of the other women leader, I realized overall contribution, like women participation in the real estate industry, is hardly 8.5%. And that, by the way, includes only 2% office goers. So rest of them are laborers only. So it's such a shocking number. So I think it's on the business side. But when I look at the technology side, I don't think we have too many women leaders, actually. We do have women participation in general in our workforce when it comes to IT, tech, digital. But when it comes to leadership side of it, I see a very limited, number of women leaders there. So I think there is a need to, have more women participation in the leadership as well. I mean, you
absolutely, Devashri. Actually, there is interesting way. Actually, I always talk about this topic. So, if you look at a society, the diversity in the companies should match the diversity in the society where we live and operate, right? So, in general, in human race, we are like 50-50, sometimes 49-51, something between male and female ratio. And if we are actually in India with a population of over 1.4 billion, that means there are close to 700 million women. So we are losing out on that talent. So as the company grows into the new age economy, and if we don't bring the half of the population around with us, so that's going to be kind of like losing out on the talent for the companies that are not working on it explicitly. Other interesting point is in the last 25 years, if you see some of the new industries like tech companies, right? You go to schools, there are 50% girls. You go to universities, you go to actually pure tech players based out of India, whether it is Infosys, Wipro, their percentage of women participation is significantly higher in that unit of work. When you come to industries, infrastructure industries, like where we operate on the ground and work on physical things outside, typically in the structure of the business, that is where we are seeing few people. I'm glad actually we are making foray into that at Adani. Three of us sitting here are kind of actually
testament.
Absolutely, isn't it? So obviously, like once people look up to us, and what is the art of possible? So what are we going to do to pay forward and bring the next gen workforce along with us? We share a responsibility beyond our individual groups. But make no mistake, one of the things is, this will be an interesting topic. It's not just women. It's good to have role models, but also men play a significant part.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, Ekta.
So I must say that, you're so right. We can educate women as much to rise for themselves, but the society that we come in, it's very important that Women's Days are celebrated more by men than women. I think, I really believe that women have arrived when men also believe so. We come where we are today is because there are people who have backed us. We are coming from because we had conviction to be where we are. And similarly, the women who really want to be where they want to be should be able to rise, should be able to get that family support, which I think is starting to change. I've been here for just 2 days. This is my 3rd day, and I must say the welcome I received has been overwhelming. In fact, to every area I went, leaders have come themselves. They've come and congratulated me to be part of this journey. It really feels so nice to be part of Adani Parivar. When I joined, I went to get my iCard, and I was introduced to the lady who's in charge of security. And she was so excited to talk to me about the women initiative called Be Connected. It just came from her heart, and how she felt so good about it made me feel that I'm at a very good place. So I think we are getting that.
So I'm here for over 2 years now, but I think I have the similar feelings. I mean, the experience is still overwhelming, and I'm sure it must be for Madhu as well.
So I spent the last 3 decades in the Western world. So it's an entry back for me into the country. And it's a nice part. Last night, Ekta and I were talking actually about my little journey, and it is an interesting one. But I can tell you it is only possible in this environment with the support, the kind of support we get both within the company and in the society.
So, personally, I'm curious to know. I mean, we are doing so many great things in tech, but like I said, reality side adoption, experiences that I shared. Is it similar in your field as well, or do you see a disconnect?
So actually, I'll share a couple of comments, Ekta, and you can pitch in.
Sure.
There is a thing we can actually, we are in this, well, like actually in this bubble of Adani group, right? How is it going inside? But then if you look at how is it going outside, right? The consumerization of technology has risen the bar for what the expectations are at work and what is acceptable and of course balanced with what is affordable. So there is a lot of complaints about why do I need this overlay of security when I don't have all that at home and I have free access to worldwide information. So because of legalities, actually a little bit in the West, and also employee experience driving kind of like the top line and the bottom line for the companies, and needing to attract the talent. There is a great war for creating those experiences and trying to embed and progress on the DNA. So people are actually working on first, if you can't attract the right talent and put the right technology that requires for them to be working at your company versus working somewhere else. So there is a little bit of competition in that space happening. In this geography, in India, mostly it is not that competitive yet. Like their talent is more available than in other places. We have to be so proud of the talent we are actually minting as a country, not only serve within the country but across the geographies in the world. However, in the infrastructure industries, if you go to consumer companies, you go to banking sector, they don't have any assets. Their assets are the people and the information they have. So the spend on the technology is a whole lot. So they have understood actually how to get value out of it, how to let the whole organization lean into it. Whereas when we come to this infrastructure world, where we are the supporting characters, right? That kind of reliance on technology wasn't needed to do the things we were doing till recently. That game is going to change. The game is on now. Like some companies knew it was coming and they didn't know how to deal with it. Right? And I wouldn't know a lot of Indian companies, but in the West, we talk about Blockbuster that used to sell videos and DVDs for rental. And they saw Netflix coming. They saw Redbox kiosks coming, but they actually didn't make the turn. Right? They were experimenting with those concepts, but they didn't make the turn. Just like that in every industry, even in renewables, what we were able to achieve so far without the technology and what we will be able to achieve with technology, there is going to be the drastic difference. And then how do we capitalize on it? How do we work to actually embed in the DNA of who we are? I think that's the purpose. We are in our roles actually at this juncture of the group. What do you think, Ekta? Given that it is your day 2 or day 3, actually, what do you think actually, like how does it compare from your prior experiences?
You put it in so beautifully. and relating to what Devashri was also asking in adoption, okay, and comparing West to India. If you look at airports, so in airports we deal with B2C and B2B, both situations. We have to address end users, and we have to make sure the entire actors at the airport are also seamlessly working to make sure the airport operations. Adoption is so key and different to compare to the rest of the world, because if you look at the Indian marketplace airports, typically there are around 60% passengers who travel probably once a year. So it's not about, catering to a loyalty. It is not about catering to frequent flyers. It is about catering to first-time users. So therefore, how intuitive tech can be for them to adopt it on their first very instance, or maybe once in a year, is the key problem that airports have. So our adoption, paradigms are very different. It is not just about laying out the land, but also making sure how people are feeling safe and secure about using technology. Today, we are starting DigiYatra POCs at the Ahmedabad airport. Now, biometric is so central to the passenger flows as we go forward. At the same time, it comes with the constraints of data sharing. So people are still not sure how secure their data is, and therefore getting to adopt becomes that challenge. So educating people on how safe and secure are the data protection acts, how the data is purged after every consumption, goes hand in hand for making sure there's a better adoption of digital. In fact, when I talk about data protection, she also spoke about security. For airports, reputation is paramount. We know that, they come to news on almost all wrong reasons. So how does an airport protect its reputation, be it physical security, be it cyber security, be it from the standpoint of how we are responding to any disruptions, becomes paramount. So therefore, all the systems that we are designing for airports, how we want to transform the airports, ethics by design becomes a principle. How do we ensure there is ethics in data, ethics in regulatory, ethics in what we are sending out as a consumer applications to different end users are protected, are secure. So it becomes, it hooves upon us as digital leaders to make sure that we at the same time make sure that while we do and adopt the best, we still make sure that we have a bedrock of solid security protocols built into the design.
Absolutely.
In fact, yeah. So you together kind of covered it all. I just feel like summarizing it. It all begins with the planning. And like you rightly said, the whole planning design has to happen, by ethics, by security, with a lot of agility. Because today we design something may not work tomorrow. We have to quickly change it and, adopt it. After that, usually we are getting into implementation directly. Now, I think mutually what we're discussing today is we are missing one element there. We plan, we implement, we focus on adoption, and probably we focus on measurement as well. What we miss usually is after planning, before implementation, there's a lot of work to be done to, I think, include everybody in the ecosystem in that journey. Spreading that awareness in our fabric, in our DNA, like you said. So we need to educate our end users. We need to educate all the participants in this whole transformation journey so that they are aware what are we doing, why are we doing, whether it is secure, whether it is ethical, not ethical, whatever it is. So we need to bring everybody on our side, and then if we start executing it, I think that adoption, the measurement will not be a challenge anymore because everybody will be into it right from the beginning. So I think
that's very well summarized. Taking all stakeholders together, addressing everybody's needs is key to designing the solutions of tomorrow. Because even if one group is not buying into what you want to propose as a solution, can actually become, a big spanner in the works tomorrow. So totally agree with you.
So I was just thinking yesterday, so a lot of things are happening on the user experience, employee experience. All of that comes with the adoption of a lot of new ways of working, new ways of doing things, new technologies, and whatnot. And everything new comes with the advantages as well as disadvantages. As a tech enthusiast, I'm curious to know what are your views. I mean, do you think we are heading in the right direction? Do you really think? I personally think the technology needs to be more responsible. We need to be more responsible when we are taking our calls when it comes to implementing or adopting it. What are your views?
We talked about ethics in the design and ethics in actually how we make choices around technology. So, where this is headed, what are the pitfalls? It's kind of like you'd be better off trying it than not trying it, right? The game is on. You don't want to be left out. There is a lot of FOMO, the fear of missing out, actually happening. But unless you experiment, you wouldn't know. So recently, all the news around like the chat GPT kind of brought some of these concerns like into the forefront on will it replace jobs, like mundane things like that, to actually like if it is going to shape how we think and what we actually how we act, what we do, and its impact on the civilization where it is going, it's going to be huge, right? So unless we kind of like be out there and experiment, I don't know anybody has the crystal ball on what it's going to do or not do.
True that. In fact, you touched on the right question that how are we going with this? Where are we headed? How is responsible AI going to shape the world? How it starts to affect each one of us in different ways? What is the sanctity of the whole societal things that we are right now so accustomed to? How will the education look like? How will there are so many questions unanswered that I think the fraternity needs to come together to find answers to make sure that there are rules and regulations that don't start to disrupt the whole, the digital world, the cognitive era that we are living in certainly should not come down on its knees because we ourselves haven't done a controlled version of it. It's, as you rightly said, the jury is out on what's good, what's not, and we need to watch that space. But yes, as conscious human beings, we have to make sure that we are not putting our future into the hands of something we are not yet aware what big that monster could be. That's my view.
Absolutely.
What about you?
I mean, same thoughts. In fact, I was just thinking instead of this is just an idea that just popped in my head. We're all exploring technologies, and like you said, it requires the entire fraternity to come together and. So why reinvent the wheel? I mean, we're all doing some of the work which is pretty overlapping. So, in fact, I was wondering that we should come with some innovative ideas which we can jointly work upon. Like each one of us talked about AI/ML, for example, or AR VR is becoming the new thing. Customer experience. So there are a lot of technology elements which are common in each of our area. Then maybe we can come together, form some kind of community, and jointly, maybe responsibly, bring about some changes. So I think we
That's
must.
a great idea, actually. Some of the use cases cut across the verticals that we have in the group. The AR VR, one of the experiments I would love to share, we are working on actually leveraging that for immersive training experiences from a safety perspective.
Okay.
So we are a big projects company. So fundamentally, we looked at the data, fall from heights, electrical safety being in the energy sector, and also road and vehicle safety, believe me or not, are actually top three things that actually we need to really get people up on this. So we are leveraging that on these three use cases, if not all three, the two, road and vehicle safety and fall from heights, is applicable everywhere else.
Even
So
the
it's
first
not-
one, when you spoke about immersive experience for training, MRO at airports, is the right place to take it. So we have so many points that in this conversation found we can, synergize upon. It's
in our case, it would be different, but again, the same tech, for example, especially our international buyers, we can have, the whole property tour probably through AR/VR, and that can help them take the decisions.
The other interesting observations I have is I came from companies that did heavy engineering of products. So the engineering cycles, whether it is an engine or electric vehicle, engineering cycles are very long. If you want to create a brand new automobile like a car, it is about 3 to 5 years of total conceptualizing to bringing it to market, right? So when we talk about technology, and then we had people come over, oh, we love it. We went to all these training sessions. This is so applicable. We have this use case, that use case. And then we talk about agile delivery. So they were in the traditional world of waterfall, right? Which is equivalent to doing projects here. So, hey, you have a start date and you got the funding and you have a stop date. Well, there are things in between that we are going to miss, but it is going to be one and done. You can celebrate and go. So the people when leaders are our peers, actually, one of the hardest mental model for them to actually leapfrog is what is reasonable expectation. So they'd come up with all these. Initially, we had trouble like identifying use cases and detailed requirements. Then they got good at it. Oh, I need to get really good at it. I know actually, like if I don't have this overlay of digital on the physical products I'm selling, whether it is a solar panel, but we are talking about actually how to potentially offer some monitoring services, so on, and some of the advanced analytics around it. Or like an engine, like actually it's becoming a commodity. Now I'm going to overlay digital and bringing incremental features. So they take almost 4 years worth of features and say, hey, you deliver every 2 weeks, right? Come on, deliver this for me. And that calibration around what is the art of possible to actually what is a reasonable time frame to actually what does good look like when we really adopt. And how do we know that we have arrived? That's going to be an interesting journey. Different leaders are actually going through this at different paces based on the company. So that is one of the interesting elements we should kind of explore a bit more about in our offline conversations to carry on forward on what could we do to bring the leaders along. True. Sometimes when they're really leaned in, we are seeing a different set of challenges. And when they're not leaned in, there are completely different set of challenges.
Isn't that a challenge with digital? Because it's not tangible. You can't show and tell till it is in a particular stage. So how do you, get the first model out, start to, get feedback early, break it down into sprints so that visibly people can appreciate, understand the incremental, update or I'll say development of the product, which is not a product till you see it. So there, synergizing and making sure that we also start to combine some of the prototyping principles so that it's visible early and can be a quick a validation check if you're in the right direction. Also helps in success of projects. Just on the sprint, what you spoke about.
And also go one step further and jointly do it. For example, I was exploring blockchain. You must be exploring blockchain for your communities, maybe the entire airport. So why experiment it, separately? We can jointly do, some work there. Drones, I'm sure, is another good use case because I think each of the business sectors probably in the need to have drone captures, some of the comparison and analytics to be made based on the captures. So I can see multiple, technology endeavors that we can actually jointly, not just 3 of us, but maybe we can have more leaders join hands and, explore it together. Wonderful. So I absolutely love the conversation, and I'm looking forward to have, more conversation like this. So